I never
Please just
expected
listen.
my life
Why
to
should
change at an office
Because I
party.
love you.
But you hurt
The
me.
music
know,
was
forgive me.
loud, people were laughing,
Please don't
and my
leave me.
boss,
I
the
won't.
woman
I'm right
everyone
here.
feared,
Thank you.
looked terrified.
Come
When
with
she
me,
suddenly
now.
grabbed my
What?
hand
Where are
and
we
pulled
going?
me to the dance
Just trust me,
floor,
please.
I thought it was just a joke. But while we were dancing, she leaned closer and whispered something that made my heart stop. "Please, don't leave me tonight." At that moment, I realized something was very wrong. That my boss, Emily Carter, was known as the most confident woman in the company. She was powerful, calm, and never showed emotions. But that night at the company party in New York, she looked completely different. Her hands were shaking when she held mine. I could feel it. "Are you okay?" I asked quietly while we danced. She forced a smile, but her eyes looked scared. "I just don't want to be alone tonight." That was strange. Because Emily Carter was the last person on earth who looked like she needed help. But before I could ask anything else, she suddenly looked toward the entrance of the hall. And her face turned pale. That I followed her gaze. A tall man had just walked into the party. He looked calm, but the moment Emily saw him, she tightened her grip on my hand. "That's him," she whispered. "Who?" "My ex-husband." She explained quickly while pretending to dance normally. "He's been trying to come back into my life, and he doesn't take no for an answer." My heart started beating faster. "So you're pretending I'm your date?" She nodded. "Please, just stay with me until he leaves." For the next hour, we stayed together. We laughed, danced, and talked like we had known each other for years. And slowly, the fear in her eyes disappeared. But something else appeared instead. Something softer. The street outside the office building was quiet. Cold night air moved gently between the tall buildings of New York. The party music was now just a faint echo behind us. Emily stood beside me for a moment, looking up at the city lights. For the first time since I had known her, she didn't look like the powerful boss everyone feared. She looked tired. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly. "Of course." She hesitated before speaking. "Why did you stay?" The question surprised me. "You asked me to," I said with a small smile. She shook her head. "No, most people would have made an excuse and left. Especially when they realized my ex was here." I thought about it for a moment. Then I said the truth. "Because you looked scared. And I couldn't just walk away." Emily looked down at the ground, quiet for a few seconds. Then she laughed softly. "You know, in the office everyone thinks I'm fearless. Well, you usually are." "That's the problem," she said. "When people think you're strong, they assume you never need help." For a moment neither of us spoke. Then suddenly she stepped a little closer to me. "Would you mind walking me home?" Her apartment building was only a few blocks away. We walked through the quiet streets together, talking about random things, work, music, even childhood memories. And something strange happened. The more we talked, the less she felt like my boss. She just felt like Emily. When we finally reached her apartment building, she stopped near the entrance. The lights from the lobby reflected softly on her face. "Thank you again," she said. "You don't have to keep thanking me." She smiled, but then her expression became serious again. "Actually, there's something else." "What?" She looked straight into my eyes. "Tonight, when I said, 'Please don't leave me,' I didn't just mean because of my ex." My heart skipped a beat. "What did you mean?" Emily took a slow breath. Then she said something I never expected to hear from my boss. Because lately, you're the only person who makes me feel safe. And suddenly, the night felt very different for a moment. I didn't know what to say. Emily Carter, the confident CEO who controlled an entire company, was standing in front of me, looking nervous like a completely different person. You make me feel safe, she repeated quietly. I tried to keep my voice calm. Emily. I'm just one of your employees. She smiled slightly. I know. Then she added something unexpected. But tonight, you didn't treat me like a boss. You treated me like a person. The words hung in the air between us. The street was quiet. A soft wind moved through the empty road. For a second I thought the night was over. But then Emily suddenly looked over my shoulder. Her expression changed instantly. The fear returned to her eyes. He's here. My heart dropped. I turned around. Across the street, the same tall man from the party was standing near a black car, watching us. Emily's ex-husband. He slowly started walking toward us. Emily's hand instinctively grabbed my arm again. Please don't leave, she whispered. The man stopped a few steps away. He looked at me, then at Emily. So this is the guy, he said coldly. Emily straightened her posture immediately. For the first time that night, the confident CEO returned. Yes, she said firmly. And you need to leave. The man laughed quietly. You always did like playing strong, Emily. But then he looked at me again, studying me carefully. After a long moment, he shook his head. Fine, he muttered. Then he turned around and walked back to his car. Within seconds, he was gone. The tension disappeared from the air. Emily slowly let go of my arm. Looks like your plan worked, I said. She laughed softly. Maybe. Then she looked at me in a way she never had before. But the strange thing is, I don't think I was pretending anymore. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She smiled. I think tonight. I realized something. What? Emily stepped a little closer. That may be the safest place I've found in a long time, is standing right next to you. And suddenly, this didn't feel like the end of a strange night. It felt like the beginning of something neither of us had expected. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The streetlights glowed softly above us, and the city around us felt unusually quiet. Emily looked at me like she was trying to decide something important. Do you know something strange? She said. What? Tonight was the first time in years that I wasn't pretending to be strong. I didn't know how to respond to that. Because in the office, everyone saw her as unstoppable. But standing there in front of her apartment building, she looked like someone who had been carrying too much alone. I'm glad you trusted me, I finally said. She smiled. I didn't plan to. That made me laugh a little. So this whole thing was accidental? Completely. She looked toward the quiet street again. My ex used to say I didn't need anyone. That I was too independent. And was he right? Emily thought about it. Then she slowly shook her head. No. She looked back at me. Everyone needs someone, even if it's just someone who stays when things get difficult. For a few seconds we stood there in silence. Then Emily stepped closer and gently hugged me. It was quick, but it meant something. Thank you for not leaving tonight, she whispered. When she stepped back, she smiled in a way I had never seen before, warm and genuine. "See you at the office tomorrow," she said playfully. Like nothing happened? "Oh no," she laughed. "Something definitely happened." Then she walked toward the entrance of her building. Before going inside, she turned around one last time. And with a small smile she said something that stayed with me for a long time. "Next time, we dance without the fear." The door closed behind her. And standing there under the city lights, I realized something. That night started with a scared boss asking me not to leave. But it ended with something neither of us expected. A connection that might change both of our lives forever. The next morning, I walked into the office still thinking about last night. Everything looked normal. People were laughing, typing, and rushing to meetings. Then I saw her, Emily Carter. She smiled at me across the office floor, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of hesitation. Before I could say anything, her assistant came rushing over. "Emily, your ex just called. He says he's coming back to the city tonight," the assistant whispered. Her confident smile disappeared instantly. She looked at me, and for a brief moment, she seemed scared again. "Looks like tonight, we'll have another dance," she said quietly. I froze. Another encounter with her ex? Another chance to protect her? And just like that, the office felt less like a place of work and more like the start of an unpredictable story. One thing was clear: last night was only the beginning. Her whispered words from yesterday replayed in my mind. "Next time, we dance without the fear." But deep down, I knew, tonight, the fear would return, and so would the opportunity to stand by her side again. That night, the city lights reflected off the wet streets as I waited near the office. Emily arrived a few minutes later. She looked tense, but there was also determination in her eyes. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. "For what?" I said. "For him, and for tonight." Her ex arrived soon after, confident, cold, and sure he would intimidate her. But this time, Emily didn't look scared. She stood tall, held my hand firmly, and whispered, "Tonight, we face it together." The man looked at me, then at her, and for the first time, he hesitated. "You're not alone anymore," Emily said. Her voice was strong, unwavering. And in that moment, I realized how much she had changed. The fear from last night was gone. In its place was courage, and something more, trust. Her ex turned around, defeated, and left without a word. Emily exhaled, relieved, and looked at me. "Thank you, for staying." "You don't have to thank me," I replied, smiling. But she shook her head. "No. I mean it. You've shown me that even someone like me can rely on another person." She paused, then added, teasingly, "Next time, we dance, not out of fear, but out of choice." That night, as she walked me to the street corner, I realized something important. The scared boss from the party no longer existed. What remained was someone real, someone who could laugh, trust, and even care. And I knew, our story had just begun.